Hello, and thanks for joining me. So, some of you may know that I did crash my pilot in November, the start of November, and I've been painstakingly putting it together, and now it's all done. It's completely done. I'm sitting in it. It drives. It's got an alignment, new tires. So, but rather than just gloss over the fact of how much work it was, I've recorded almost everything that I have done to it, and it's over an hour and a half of footage, so I'm going to be breaking it up into 3 parts. This here is going to be the first part, just kind of stripping everything down and then getting it to the point where it's ready for new radiator support, and then the other parts I'll see as I'm editing, because I haven't started yet, of just how far to break it up into. But this is the first part. There should be 3 parts, hopefully, maybe 4 if it's a lot of footage and I can't break it up into like 30 minutes or something. So get some popcorn, pick a comfortable place to sit and enjoy the long time lapse of all the work that I've done to the pilot. Okay, so let's get into it. At this step of the process, all the broken components have been taken off, and I'm starting to drill the radiator support in order to remove that. There's a lot of spot welds, and it takes quite a bit of time to cut them out with a drill and get the car ready for welding in a new radiator support. At this point, I'm using a hammer to hit the metal to try and move it back to where it should be, because it got pretty skewed from the accident. At this point, you see me using a 5-pound slide hammer to attach to a nut and a bolt and try and pull some of that frame that moved to the right back out. It takes quite a bit of time and a lot of force to get the metal to move. To remove the headlight and some other components from the left side, the side that wasn't hit, just so I can get access with the drill and the spot weld cutters to completely remove the top radiator support. Now I'm just removing the plastic pieces like the drip pan and all the plastics, just so I can get access to the radiator, which is the next step. Here you see me draining the coolant from the radiator. It was about a quart low from how much it should have, just because the radiator was hit and leaking a little bit of coolant. Now I started on the rear end. I'm just removing this rear taillight that was also hit and trying to straighten out this trim piece so the taillight would sit flat, and seeing how much I can straighten out the body. There's not much I could do from the outside, but I didn't want to take any of the plastic trim pieces off that usually break, so I just did my best. This is just continuing to drill out the spot welds on the radiator support. There were a lot, especially the hidden ones that I didn't see until after I had hammered out the radiator support, but we don't talk about that. Here I am just freeing the hood latch and any other wires or things attached to it, just because I didn't want to forget about it and accidentally break them when I was pulling the radiator support back out. I had removed the stick that actually holds the hood up, so I was trying to find some broken parts that I can wedge the hood up, but it took quite a bit of time to figure out something that worked and would hold the hood up without slamming shut on my head. So this spot weld cutter that I had was so super dull, and I didn't realize it because I thought that's how normal spot weld cutters should cut, but when I was completely almost all done with the project, I had like 2 spot welds left. I had bought a new spot weld cutter, and the thing cut so nice. It took like 2 seconds to cut a spot weld when each one of these was taking me about 3 to 5 minutes. This is at home. I also had to go to the junkyard to cut out a radiator support, and that was taking me 15-20 minutes per spot weld cut. So definitely buy a new spot weld cutter before trying to struggle with some used one that you had laying around. Broomstick for the win here. I didn't want to fully remove the driver's side fender, so I just removed some of the bolts and then shimmed the fender out of the way so I can cut those spot welds, just because I didn't want to mess with fender gaps and anything like that. And here you see me running back and forth trying to figure out which bolts I could remove, so I have to remove the least amount of things so I don't have to take the fender off. Worked out in the end, but it was just kind of tedious. And here you see me holding the fender back just so it doesn't rub on the drill. There are a few spot welds hidden right behind the airbox, so the airbox filter and the air hose had to come out so I can get the drill in there and drill out the remaining spot welds. After all that work, the radiator support is free and fully came out. This is the 3rd official day of working on the pilot. I'd gone to the junkyard the day before and spent nearly the whole 8-hour day there pulling parts that I needed and drilling out this piece that connects to the radiator support where the headlight sits. Mine was completely smashed up and unusable, and this is the radiator support I had drilled out. I'm just fitting up the parts to make sure that everything is fitting, and then you'll see me use the slide hammer, a regular hammer, just to kind of move them exactly where they should be before I weld them permanently into place. At this point I went ahead and grabbed the headlight, and I was about 3 or 4 inches off from where the headlight should sit, so a few more hours in the garage with the slide hammer pulling the frame out and got it pretty close to where it should be. The accident had significantly shortened and removed the connectors for the windshield washer pump, so I put the new bottle in there and I'm sizing up how long the connectors should be. Thankfully I cut them off a donor car, so I have all the connectors and just got to solder them in. Nothing screams I know what I'm doing, just like these plastic cable protectors that you can pick up at Harbor Freight. They protect the cable so it doesn't look like some hack job. Just threw the cables in there. These make it look pretty OEM. I had my doubts about the suction cup pulling out a dent, since the quarter panel was pretty dented in, but hey, removed one of the dents, and you can't even see where it is. This is a donor taillight that I had picked up from the junkyard, and needless to say, it fits almost perfect. Here began the long and tedious process of removing the actual radiator. Even with the top radiator support removed, this thing was fighting me nail and tooth. Nearly every single metal fastener near or on the radiator was so rusty that it kept snapping and falling off. One of the fans decided to come off, the other one was a struggle. All the wire connectors were stuck. It was just a nightmare. Laying on the cold hard ground didn't do any favors either, but after some struggling it did finally come out. Not only did it take forever, whatever fluids were left in it missed the cardboard on the ground and leaked all over the floor. The cleanup process took a long time. This is prepping the radiator support and other metal pieces for welding. Just removing the burrs and kind of cleaning up the metal surfaces so that they will weld nicely. I'm just slightly enlarging and deburring the holes in any of the radiator support holes that were spot welded. When you cut out the spot welds, it leaves them really rough, so I'm just cleaning them up, having nice holes that I can hopefully plug weld. There's a few more hours of straightening that went in, and this is the near final test fit just to make sure that everything is exactly where it should be, and once welded, should hopefully be able to fit everything. While removing the bracket that sits on the AC condenser, I had broken a bolt, and here was me trying to figure out if that part comes off or if I have to drill it. And it came off, so I'm just drilling and then tapping out the broken bolt. Thankfully I found a spare bolt at the junkyard that is already sitting in place, and job well done over here. I'm just using the angle grinder to clean up the part where the radiator support will be getting welded to. I forgot to do this in the garage and had the welder out ready to weld, except I saw that the plugs were still there, so I'm just cleaning them up and getting ready for the welding. I had already tacked on the left side of the radiator support, and I'm using this hammer just to kind of straighten it out now that the whole piece doesn't move. It's just a small part that isn't welded, which can move. My welding helmet decided it didn't feel like working out in the cold today, so it was intermittently auto shielding like it should be, and the other times wasn't working at all, but we did safety squints to get it done. I am not a welder by trade, and trying some plug welds wasn't working out, so I just regularly welded the radiator support in there. Much overkill, way thicker welds than actually needed to be, but I ended up grinding them out in the end, so it looked semi-factory, but I have no doubt that this thing can withstand the next accident. Not that I'm going to try, but I had misplaced my welding blanket and had to use cardboard instead. There were a few times that it actually did catch on fire, but thankfully the welding gloves put them out, so nothing did start on fire. As I'm putting on the top radiator support, I'd realized that something had shifted just a little bit, so I used the hammer to kind of motivate the metal to be moving where it should be. It just moved maybe a few millimeters, but that was a pretty big difference. In this top section, I actually had to dial down the welder a bit because I was burning holes right through the metal. Don't know why, maybe the top section is a little bit thinner metal or who knows what, but I was just burning holes right through the metal. At this point, the welding was flying by so fast. I was going to have this project done before night. I was going to put the pilot back together, and things didn't exactly work out that way because, well, bro, I had run out of welding wire. Fun! A meal in a hardware store later, I was back to my welding shenanigans. I didn't hit any other snags besides thinking I was done, and I wasn't. I figured might as well start grinding out these welds that I had done. I had put the welder away, and about nearing the end of grinding out all the welds, I had realized that the hood was split in two. So I had to go fetch the welder again and weld up the hood seam. So this hood metal is super flimsy. I just kept burning through and had to stitch weld kind of, or else I'd make a hole in the hood. The other problem was the sealant or gasket or whatever this stuff is started catching on fire. I'd use a gasket scraper to kind of scrape it away, but at one point I had to grab some snow and put out fires because it kept smoking up, catching on fire, and the fire wouldn't stop. So I was just worried that the inside of the hood might catch fire, but put it out with the snow a few times and good to go. All fun and games until a spark makes it through your glove and it's not so fun anymore. If you made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, which should be coming out soon. The pilot is all fully wrapped up by now, but let's see how we got there. See you everyone in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.